Sup nerds, I'm Aaron. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Oregon Trail game. So 2 years ago, Pressman came out with a Oregon Trail game, the card game, which a lot of people didn't really like. I can't blame them. I didn't get through an entire game because it's just very bogged down, very tough. It wasn't the game for me. It had the nostalgia, which was like, oh, I need this. I bought it, and I was just like, I couldn't get through it. The game just wasn't what I was looking for in an Oregon Trail game, and that's what the journey to Willamette Valley achieves. It finally brings that experience that you're looking for of, oh, we're traveling across, and oh, we may get dysentery, but my family's gonna make it to the other end. Like, this game is so good at doing that. Like, it may not look the best when you look at it, you see all these cubes, but it does a really good job of simulating going out west. So this game essentially is kind of a race to the finish line, but it's not just whoever's the first there, it's whoever has the most money when the game is over. The game is triggered when either all of these tiles are placed on the board or somebody reaches the end. And then you'll just count up the amount of money you've collected. You'll get $500 for your driver, $100 for each health point all of your family still has, so that could be up to 20 more points. You'll get $400 for any of the hitchhikers that you picked up and brought all the way to Wilamette. So if you don't actually make it to the end, they're worthless and they're just been in your inventory this whole time. So that's all the money you gain. Then you lose $100 for every column away from the finish that you are. And then you have to pay funeral costs for all of your family members who died. And the earlier they die in the game, the more it's going to cost you. This game definitely comes down to some luck, but a lot of resource management. You have 6 slots in your wagon where you can hold cubes. 4 of them are taken up by your family members. So you have 2 big boxes that can hold things. The way the items work in this game, there's some big cubes, which represent bigger items. You have the hitchhikers, you have spare parts, which are the brown ones, you have winter clothes, which are white, like winter, and then a shotgun, which is just a really big gray cube, which is like the pistol, which is a small gray cube. That means they're metal and they're weapons. The pistol and the shotgun, they're going to be used for hunting to get food, which you need to feed your family. Throughout the game, you need to constantly get food, so you need to be hunting. You do start the game with 1 pistol, which doesn't actually take up one of your slots, so that's good. But you need to get to a forest so you can actually start hunting. You can expand your wagon, which I highly recommend if you want to actually carry around enough stuff to really feel like you're going to get a lot of points. The wagon extension, you can buy it in any of the towns for $200, and it gives you +4 storage. Definitely a buy for me. Like, you definitely need to get the wagon extension. So at the beginning of your turn, you're going to be placing 1 or more tiles on the board. You do not have to connect roads if you don't want to, but if you do, it makes traveling a lot easier because with 1 movement point, you can move along as much length of road as you desire. There's definitely a lot of strategy in how you place them. Some of the tiles have rivers, which you can use to kind of block your opponents. You can throw them down in front of them. And now, when they go to move, they have to decide if they want to try and cross the river. The rivers have different levels of risk involved, and they have a number printed on them. If you decide that you want to cross it, like, you're moving along and you come across the river, but you still want to keep moving, you can roll the dice. And if you meet or exceed that number, you cross safely. But if you don't, every point difference that you don't meet that number, then you have to take that much damage. After you place the tile, you're going to draw a Calamity card. Most of the calamities are somewhat bad. See, first one I just drew right here, Sabotage. Wagon extension destroyed. So if you bought a wagon extension, it could just instantly be destroyed. But I believe there was one in here that actually gives you a wagon extension. So they're not always bad, but a majority of them are. A lot of them, your family members die unless you have winter clothes or make it to a fort by the end of the round. After you draw the Calamity card, you'll take 3 actions. You can move, you can trade, you can buy things, you can sell things. You can pick up more hitchhikers so that you can bring them along the trip with you. After you've taken all your actions, you'll finalize any of the calamities that haven't fully taken place, like the ones where if you don't do something this turn, then your family members die. So you have a chance to negate that calamity. If you bought or sold anything, the market values are going to change, so you'll draw a new market card. And then the last thing you do is you feed your family. To feed your entire family, you need 1 meat cube. You just get rid of that cube and your family's good. If you can't do that, everybody's going to lose 1 health. They're going to start starving. It's definitely a game of survival. You're going to have to try to get guns, go hunting, and go along on this trip. Speaking of hunting, it's kind of like its own mini game within this game. Whenever you decide that you want to go hunting and you're on a forest tile, you can take a hunt action, and then you take all of the weapons you have and distribute them across this bar at the bottom of your player board, which will show what numbers you're shooting at. A shotgun goes on the target in the middle, and it'll hit the numbers on both sides. The pistols, they go directly on a number, so you pick what number you're aiming for. Once you've decided what you're hunting for, each number kind of represents a different animal, you'll flip over the top card and see whether or not you hit it. If you flipped up a 4, that's a squirrel, and if you had either placed your pistol directly on the 4 or a shotgun on either side of the 4, you successfully shot that squirrel, and you'll get the 1 piece of meat that's listed at the bottom. If you only have 1 gun, it would be really insane to try and shoot for the bear. Like, you're just like, okay, I'm bear hunting, and I'm just waiting for the bear, and then you flip over the card and it's not the bear, you're just wasting your time. If you do happen to shoot the bear, though, it is 6 food, so it's a lot of food and you'll feed your family for a long time. But it's definitely a risk to try and shoot at the bear when it's only 1 card out of all of these cards. And you can kind of count cards. If you get through most of the deck and the bear hasn't been shot yet and hasn't came up yet, maybe you might start aiming for him. Or if you have multiple guns, then it might make it worth your while to spread your aim around the board. So I think this game does a really good job of giving you that feeling of, traveling and trying to maintain the supplies in your wagon. Like, you have a very limited amount of space and you really have to think about what you want. Ultimately, you're trying to make a lot of money before you get to the end. So looking at the market cards and seeing what the value of things are, you can buy things in a town when they're cheap, and then the card will flip over and all of a sudden the thing you bought is worth a lot more, so you might sell it in another town and make some money off of it. Having these smaller cubes, 4 of them take up the same space as 1 big cube. So it's kind of interesting to you're balancing medicine and pistols and meat, and you throw them all into one spot, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to put this hitchhiker down here. And now your wagon's full, and you're like, okay, so I'm going to spend this meat, at the end of the turn. Next turn, I need to make sure I get another meat because I have space for it now. And you definitely want to keep your wagon full because you need all that stuff, and you can sell it if you're not using it. But it definitely kind of gives you this sense of, I got to choose what matters and keep the things I need now, sell things that I'm not using, because space is kind of the biggest commodity. Until one of your family members dies, you're not going to get another space unless you buy that extension. If you're a fan of the original Oregon Trail video game that was back on the computer, the nostalgia is probably already drawn you in. You're going to want to get a copy. But if you were kind of scared off by the old card game, don't be scared anymore. This definitely is a lot more of a gamer's game. It's not the heaviest game. It's very approachable. People that are new to games will understand it because it's pretty straightforward. You're placing tiles, you're taking a couple actions, you're feeding your family, you're trying to make it to the end, all while managing the resources you have in your wagon and just trying to survive, having laughs as people get dysentery or they have typhoid fever. It's everything that the game needed to be, and I highly recommend it. If you're interested in this game, I'll have a link in the description box down below where you can get yourself a copy. Either way, you should subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.